Good morning. My name is Aanya Cerra, and who I am and why I'm here is one and the same, really. I am love. I am divine. I am my God self. I am a healer. And I am here to assist the human race and Gaia in restoration of its divine resonance. I am here to be love to every soul in my living transmission through every thought, every breath, every word, and every frequency I emanate. And so with this, I will share some of my awarenesses and experiences through life that brought me to where I am now. As a child, I grew up with a lot of abuse, many forms of abuse, and I became the protector of my sibling. I was a very, very sensitive child, so experiencing the abuse was quite intense and impactful for the rest of my life. I was extremely sensitive and very aware of energies around people, energy in rooms. And I experienced a lot of deja vus when I was a child. I can still remember them. My mom would say we'd never been there before, and I would say, yes, Mom, we've been here before. And I couldn't understand why she couldn't remember. So as I got older, I began to feel more, began to see more. Moving through the trauma as I was experiencing this was quite difficult. And I gravitated into my teens. I became even more heightened to sensitivity around my energy field and other people's fields. So here I was at 16, moving through my own trauma and experiencing other people's trauma at the same time, which is very confusing. It's hard to differentiate between what's yours and another's. So, stepping into the work field at age 16, I had my first experience with spirits and entities, working in a very well-known resort, and that was quite interesting. My first experience was working in a specific floor, and I did housekeeping. So I would do turn down in the rooms, and I walked into this floor, and there's a lot of activity on this floor. So every room I went into, I could hear someone coming into the room with their grocery bag, but I couldn't see anybody. And it happened throughout the entire floor, in every single room, for the entire night. And that was terrifying, going back to my boss and asking her to not send me back there again at my first job. So after that, I continued to have experiences where I could see spirits. I could see them walking down the hallways. I could feel them. There were a lot of tricksters at the hotel. And so they would bump into you, kind of spook you a little. They would call out my name and then giggle. That was wild. So that was during my teen years, when I was 16. And then I moved into my 20s, still expanding, still moving through my trauma. Began doing different types of, back then it was just considered energy work. Presence. I did some shamanic work, and that led into developing my senses more acutely. So as I was navigating my 20s, it became known with my girlfriends that I was very sensitive to energy. So of course when we go out to clubs to go dancing, I was the person. They're like, if she doesn't like it here, we leave. There was always some drama that went down if we left. Like after we left, something would happen. So that was my That was my label when we were in our 20s. And then I started working in a health food store. Oh, actually, there's one other thing. So in my early 20s, this was quite impactful, this experience that I had. So we were at a theme park in California, and we're standing in line waiting for the ride. And there's a gentleman walking through the line, and he's coming through very slowly. He's trying to make his way up, and it appears he's meeting someone at the front of the line. So as he's walking by, he comes by me, and he's taller than me, and I can see him, and I realize that it's Robin Williams. And I hear him say, so we locked eyes, and I hear him say, "Please don't say anything." And I said, "Of course not." And so I watched him walk by. He went up with his son, and they went on the ride. They left. And at that moment, my boyfriend then, I told him what had happened. I said, "That was Robin Williams that walked by us." So this guy is very animated and loud. And so he's very excitable. "Why didn't you tell me?" And he's getting really excited. And I said, "Well, that's why, right there. He didn't want me to say anything." And he goes, "What do you mean he didn't want you to say anything?" And I realized there was no verbal transmission. This was completely telepathic. And I didn't quite know what to think of it. But I realized that's when things began to truly come to the surface of what was occurring in my life. So then I started realizing that I embodied several of the clairs, clairaudient, clairsentient, so that all of these were coming into play. So sometimes my world was not the world of the person sitting next to me. And that became more apparent as I got into my late 20s. So I started working at a health food store. And I began to see when people would walk in and they were looking for different supplements for their health condition, I could see that something was going on in their body and that supplement wouldn't necessarily work, which isn't the best scenario in a retail environment when you're in charge of the store and it's all about sales. So that was difficult. So I could see what was going on in their body. I could see that there was an emotional component to the physical. I could see the areas of the body that were being affected. And all I wanted to do was talk to them about what was going on in their life so that I could assist them in the best way and do it without diagnosing. So that's what I was experiencing there. And I also started to see when I could sense what was happening on an emotional level that went deeper than just the physical. So I could see when someone wasn't walking in their truth, or they had a lot of anger, or they just weren't in a space of love. And that was really, really trying on me. That was very difficult because I could, again, it was that part of not being able to differentiate, and it could really affect me. So seeing that many people in one day's time was a lot. So this is when everything started winding down at this job. I knew I was being forced out. I knew the universe was making it happen, and I was terrified because it paid well. And I didn't know what was going to happen after that. I didn't have a college degree or anything, so at one point, this was maybe the last few months of time that I had worked there, I had gone to lunch with two of the people that worked there. And as I'm having lunch, one of them receives a phone call. So she gets the phone call, and I heard the ringtone. And it was the Knight Rider theme. Like what, Kit the car? Okay. So, so it was the Knight Rider theme. And I'm like, oh, that's a really cute ringtone. So she gets off the phone and she says, oh, okay, I'm all done. And I said, oh, that was a cute ringtone. She's like, what ringtone? I go, the ringtone, the Knight Rider theme. And she goes, what are you talking about? I'm like, the ringtone. And she goes, how do you know? And I'm like, and I'm looking at her completely perplexed. She's looking at me completely perplexed. And I feel like in the middle of Abbott and Costello, like who's on first, like it keeps going back and forth. I'm like scaling it down for you right now. So as she's saying this, and I said, the ringtone, the Knight Rider ringtone. She goes, I don't have a ringtone. And she goes, how did you know that he had the car? And I'm like, what car? So apparently what came about was she was speaking to someone who has the Knight Rider car or a replica of the car on the phone and did not have a ringtone. So I was receiving the messages. So I had no idea what just occurred. So I get out of there and I call it was then my mentor, and I call her and I say, I don't know what just happened. What just happened? And she started laughing because she knows this person. And this person has a very narrow way of thinking. The things that we're talking about today would probably not resonate for her. And she said the guides were having fun. And I said, yeah, at my expense. I'd really like a heads up next time. But yeah, they were having fun. They were trying to expand the way that she could see things. They were trying to expand her experience. And so that was eye-opening for me. And it was another confirmation about how what I'm experiencing in my world is very different than maybe someone next to me. So, after that is when my life completely fell apart. It had been falling apart. It doesn't just happen, right? It like falls apart. It starts to crumble. So it completely fell apart, but it fell apart in some pretty dramatic ways. So goodness, I could give you a list of 20 things that fell apart. I had several miscarriages, and I had some health conditions come upon that involved never being able to have kids again, which is very difficult. I lost my job. And there were a plethora of other things that were going on that accumulated and collapsed. So, a lot of my relationships had fallen apart because of all the changes. And I thought, well, okay, this is where I rebuild. I say that with ease right now, but that's not really how I feel. This is where we rebuild. You fall apart with it. I actually went into a state of depression, which I didn't recognize as depression then. I just thought I was really sad. But you work through it. You figure it out. You pull yourself out of it. So I started doing a few jobs. I started with 4 jobs. And one of them was doing healing work. So I had already become a Reiki master. And I decided to open up one of the rooms in my home. And I would start seeing clients. And I was painting this room. I went into creation. I started to paint this room. And as I'm painting, there's so much light in this room. And all of a sudden it dawns on me as I'm doing the painting that this was supposed to be my baby's room. And I realized I was rebirthing in a different way. Thank you all for holding space. So I realized I was rebirthing everything about it. And as I'm doing this, I look up. Excuse me. I look up, and there's a baby bobcat watching me through the window. Profound moment. I have a really beautiful relationship with animals, so this was incredible. So I walked over carefully. I didn't want to scare him because I'm wearing goggles and with the paint fumes. So I walk over and he's still staring at me. And he runs over to his mom. And I knew that was my new beginning. So I continued doing my jobs and doing some healing work. And a friend of mine, she's been a close friend of mine since I was 16, said to me, and this was so profound, she said, "You've always been a mother. You've always been a nurturer to everybody you've ever known." And she said, "You may not have been able to help all the people that you're about to help if you had children." And that blew my mind because it also brought back a memory when we were high school. I told her, I said, "I don't think I'm ever going to have children." And I didn't know where it came from. So I wasn't sure if it was because of the tumultuous relationship with my mom or if it's because I came in knowing that I knew I wouldn't. So I went through and continued doing my jobs. And I began seeing people. I began to realize and come into, as I was working with different healers, what it was I was doing. So I learned through several people that I am a channel, that I in fact do healing work. Oh my goodness, I worked in several lifetimes. I was an activator. So I actually assisted with activating energy and crystals, and I was considered a conductor of sorts. So as I'm doing my healing work, I'm not liking my other jobs more and more, and there's fear about money. Everything felt like I was wasting my time. And we know that as a walking transmission, as a living transmission that we are, we're never wasting any time because everything we're doing matters. But I still didn't enjoy it. So one by one, I released them, and then COVID hit. And then 2 were released for me. So I was left with my healing work. Not a lot of clients, but I knew that this was the path that I was supposed to go in. And so I am a multidimensional healer, a multiversal healer. I'm a channel. And I'm kind of coming out right now. This is a big deal. So I work with many sources: Mary Magdalene, Mother Mary, Magdalena Collective, the Divine Feminine Collective, the Cassiopeans, 12-dimensional Cassiopeans, the Arcturians. There's a lot that I've worked with. And so this is why I'm here. I'm here to help others. I'm here to facilitate for others. I'm here to be a guide. I don't have all the answers. I just help you. I help each individual. I help myself. This is part of unity consciousness. This is what it is. So, I also work with our Divine Heart Complex and the Nadial system. So the Divine Heart Complex is what I'm noticing coming up most of all, especially since this last year, is how disconnected people are feeling from their heart complex. As far as not even being able to feel the emotion that they're feeling, not being able to identify it. And this is the hardest part about the changes that we're experiencing right now. How do we move forward if we can't even feel what we're feeling? If we can't even identify the emotion we're experiencing? So we're working through the heart. So I'd like to offer a transmission. I will be working with the heart complex and holding space. I work with the meridians as well. So you may hear some toning that may come up. It may be very quiet. So if normally you feel uncomfortable during the quiet, keep bringing yourself back in. Keep bringing your attention back into your heart space. The quiet can feel very uncomfortable at times. But this is where we're going in and we're identifying what's happening within the heart. And so I invite you into your heart. This is the connection to your soul. So as you're bringing yourself into your heart complex, into the heart chakra, into the high heart, feel yourself inside of a beautiful platinum sphere. And inside this sphere, it's filling with white light. Beautiful white light. And feel this entering into your space. And outside this platinum sphere, is this beautiful opalescent light. And visualize the sun's rays coming through that light, seeing the dimensions. And if you feel that the sphere that you're in feels too small, just expand. Expand it so you have space, so you feel comfortable but safe. Om feeling any emotions coming through, just recognize, honor it. Bringing in a deep breath into the heart space, in through the nose and out through the mouth. Allowing your higher self to come through, to be with you. Taking a deep breath, bringing it into the belly, Releasing down through the legs. Releasing any grief that's coming up now. Releasing. Bringing in a deep breath. Releasing through the mouth. Feeling yourself in your divinity. Allowing yourself to know that you are love, you are divine, you are your God self, and you are a healer. You are a living transmission. As you're in your heart complex, bringing forth anything that would like to surface for healing now. another deep breath. In through the nose, out through the mouth. Allowing yourself to begin to come back. Placing your hands on your heart. Grounding yourself back in. And this concludes the session. So take your time. Yes. Thank you. You're beautiful. Oh. So she was asking what it is that I see when I'm working energetically. So it's very multidimensional. So it's a feeling, it's a seeing, and sometimes the seeing is more, it can be colors, it can be density. So I often see where there's density or where there's movement or a feeling within that as well. So it's a lot. It's a lot of activity happening, and sometimes it's all divinely orchestrated depending on who I'm working with. So it could be that in one session, it's all the bells and whistles, it's everything. Somebody who's passed away comes through and has a message. It could be that lots of guides are coming in. It could be that there's a lot of color and there's a lot of activity, or it could simply be that the central nervous system needs a timeout and needs no interruption. And so it just depends on the person and what they're going through. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so I've been noticing, she had asked that I notice something going on more often with people and their hearts. And so it is, what actually spurred it was at one moment I was speaking with someone who was a new client, and we were talking about frequency, and I was explaining to her the different frequencies that we carry through fear and love, you know, the different frequency involved. So she wasn't familiar with that, so I actually found a chart that showed the different colors of frequencies along with the emotions and showed that to her. And she said, so what emotion am I? And so we went further into it, and I was realizing this was a regular theme after 2020, is that people weren't sure what they were even feeling and what emotions they were experiencing, because they were in this state of fear and change and uncertainty and anger, and you know, so all of this was mixed up, and so they were in a way bypassing some of the other emotions that were coming through. So we've just been honing in on that, and that seems to be a collective issue right now with each individual. Yeah. Yes.
I just wanted to thank you because your toning is so incredibly beautiful. It's like water flowing freely and so expansive and so calming, nurturing. It's absolutely beautiful. It reminds me some of Tom Kenyon, but it's much more divine feminine as well, that's layered into it somehow. And it's just so healing. Thank you.
Thank you. Liquid love. That's good. Liquid love. Oh, so he had said that my voice sounded like liquid love from the angelic realms. Did I hear that correctly? Okay. Thank you.
Magdalena Collective came in and said that you're being encouraged, guided, and essentially offered to channel an entire transmission from in the form of a recorded transmission of great significance.
Oh, wow.
And that you were doing that today.
Yes, I felt them coming through. So thank you for that. Thank you for sharing that. I will, I accept. Yes.